use, and the correct handling of force, in order to effect the free flow of energy. The following questions will inevitably arise. From whence come these inherited taints? Is it possible to arrive at their source? The problem of the past, and the present effects of that past, is too vast for consideration, nor can any statements and the situation possibly help humanity. One generalization I can, however, make, and even that may convey but little to your understanding. Of the three major diseases which have been inherited from the past, it might be said that the syphilitic, or so-called social diseases, are remainders of the excesses indulged in Lemurian times. They are of such ancient origin that the very soil is permeated with the germs of these diseases, a fact quite unknown to modern science. Down the ages, men have suffered from these groups of infections. They have died and been buried, and in their millions have contributed their quota of infection to the earth. In Lemurian times, the emphasis of the life force was upon the physical body, upon its development, its use and control, and also upon its perpetuation or reproduction. It was in Lemurian times that troubles connected with the misuse of the sex life began. This was, in a peculiar sense, the essential primeval evil, and concerning this fact, ancient legends and hints are found throughout the earliest records and writings. There is much misinterpreted testimony to this effect, and when men can read the records more correctly, and with right interpretation, they will understand the way out, because they will see more clearly the underlying causes. Cancer is a gift to modern man from the Atlantean humanity, and the scourge of this disease was the major factor which devastated the inhabitants of old Atlantis. The roots of this dire evil are deep-seated in the emotional or desire nature, and are grounded in the astral body. Cancer is partially the result of the reaction to the diseases connected with the sex life, which became so rampant in later Lemurian times, and early Atlantean days. The people of those times, seeing the fearful evils, and the extent of the disease which grew up out of the fertile Lemurian life, resulting from the promiscuous sex life on every hand, for the sake of self-preservation damped back the natural flow of desire, the flow of life as it expresses itself through the centers of reproduction and procreation, and this in due time produced other evils. Cancer is primarily a disease of inhibition, just as the syphilitic diseases are those of overexpression and overuse of one aspect of the mechanism of man. Today, owing to the vast reaches of time involved and to the untold generations of those who have died upon the earth, the germs, so called by the unlearned thinker, of the dread complaint of cancer are to be found in the very soil on which we live, infecting the vegetable kingdom, and also the human family. A correspondence to the syphilitic complaints of man are to be found in the mineral kingdom. Tuberculosis, which was devastatingly rampant at a certain stage in Atlantean times, is nevertheless a disease which has been generated principally in our Aryan race, and one which we are bequeathing to the animal kingdom and are sharing with them. This is beginning to be realized. So close, however, is the relation between men and animals, particularly the domestic animals, that they today share with men practically all his ailments in some form or another, sometimes recognizable and sometimes not. Curiously enough, the cause of this great white scourge is to be found in the fact of the shift of the life emphasis away from the emotional nature into that of the mind nature, producing a temporary starvation of the emotional nature. It is largely a disease of depletion. Cancer, in its turn, was based similarly on a previous shift of the life force from the physical body into that of the emotional nature, producing an overdevelopment of the cellular life, through overstimulation. I realize the difficulty of grasping these statements. I can only give you these unsubstantiated hints. Later discoveries alone can prove the truth of my suggestions. Let us here tabulate our conclusions. disease, race, body, kingdom, organ, syphilitic, lemurian, physical, mineral, sex, organs. Sacral center. Cancer, Atlantean, astral, vegetable, solar plexus, tuberculosis, Aryan, mental, animal, breathing apparatus. Throat center. In referring above to the centers, I am referring to the center for the distribution of the life force, wherein the emphasis for the mass will be found. From the above it will be apparent where the emphasis of the possible cure will have to lie. Already, and because it is the latest, and therefore the least deep-seated of the three major diseases inherited by modern man, we have learned how to cure tuberculosis. It has been discovered, when the mind was intelligently applied to the problem, that sunshine and good food could cure, or at any rate arrest, the disease. It is an interesting item in the field of esoteric correspondence that just as the light of the soul, pouring into the mind, can be depended upon to solve any problem, so that light of the sun and its prophylactic rays can dispel the dread symptoms of tuberculosis. Similarly, as the race develops right emotional control, we shall see the gradual disappearance of the phenomena of cancer. I said right emotional control. Inhibition and the suppression of the desire impulses by the force of the will is not right control. It is interesting also to note that though both men and women suffer from the disease of cancer, the general cause is not identical, though the basic cause, reaction from an overexpression of the sex life through the cultivation of the desire nature, remains the same. Women, owing to the risks they run in childbearing, through the turning of the life emphasis to the sex aspect of life, have revolted on a large scale, as did the Atlanteans, against this form of life expression, and it is along this line, the sex line, that their major inhibitions are found. They do not suffer so much from the general inhibition of the emotional desire feeling expression. Men do suffer from this latter inhibition, and have a tradition, or a marked tendency to greater emotional control in the handling of life than have women. Men do not require, or acquire so marked a sex control. The general field of their inhibited life tendency is therefore of greater extent, and consequently, if statistics can be trusted, more men suffer from cancer than do women, though it is a dread disease, feared by all. In the secret of right transmutation lies the cure of cancer, and this will eventually be realized. I am using this phrase, not only symbolically, but also technically and scientifically. This again will later be seen. In the secret of right rhythmic living and in the right proportional accent upon all phases of life will come, and it is rapidly coming, complete immunity from tuberculosis. In the secret of right understanding of times, and cycles and of periodic reproductive creation, will come the emergence of the race from the evils of the social diseases. It will be apparent to you, therefore, that the syphilitic diseases will be the last to disappear, just as they were the first to devastate the race. Tuberculosis is disappearing. The attention of the experts is now being given to the cure of cancer. I would like to add one or two comments which will be of general, or rather modern interest. I have said that these taints to which humanity is prone are found in the soil, and that their presence there is largely due to the burial, down the ages, of millions of corpses. By the increased use of the processes of cremation, this condition will be steadily improved. Gradually, very gradually, the taint will thus die out. It is therefore highly desirable that there be as much propaganda as possible for the use of this method of disposing of the discarded physical vehicles of the souls who are passing out of incarnation. As the soil becomes less tainted, and as soul contact is established, we can hope to see a steady decrease in the number of those who succumb to the inherited taints. Curiously enough, the free use of salt sea bathing has a definite effect on the healthiness of the physical body. The water, incidentally absorbed through the medium of the skin and by the mouth, has a vitally prophylactic effect. One of the major problems today to the psychologist, and in a lesser degree to the medical man, is the growth of homosexuality, both female and male. Specious arguments are brought forth in order to prove that this abnormal development, and the consequent interest in this morbid tendency, is due to the fact that the race is slowly becoming androgynous in its development, and that the future hermaphroditic man or woman is gradually making its appearance. This, again, is not true. Homosexuality is what you call a leftover from the sexual excesses of Lemurian times, an inherited taint, if you like. Egos who individualized and incarnated in that vast period of time are the ones who today demonstrate homosexual tendencies. In those days, so urgent was the sexual appetite, the normal processes of human intercourse did not satisfy the insatiable desire of the advanced man of the period. Soul force, flowing in through the processes of individualization, served to stimulate the lowest centers. Hence, forbidden methods were practiced. Those who thus practiced them are today, in great numbers, in incarnation, and the ancient habits are too strong for them. They are now far enough advanced upon the evolutionary path so that the cure lies ready at this time, if they choose to employ it. They can, with relative ease, transfer the sex impulse to the throat center, and thus become creative in the higher sense, employing the energy sensed and circulating in right and constructive ways. Many of them are beginning automatically to do this. However, it is well known that, among the so-called artistic types, homosexuality is very prevalent. I say, so-called, for the truly creative artist is not the victim of these ancient evil predisposing habits. It might be pointed out here that homosexuality is of three kinds. 1. That which is the result of ancient evil habits. This is the major cause today and indicates a. Individualization upon this planet. For those who individualize upon the moon chain are not susceptible to these dangerous characteristics. B. A relatively advanced stage upon the evolutionary path, which was achieved by the Lemurian egos, who succumbed to this desire satisfaction. C. A consequent study of sex magic, plus a constant insatiable physical and sexual urge. 2. Imitative homosexuality. A number of persons of all classes imitated their betters, if I might use so paradoxical a term, and so developed evil habits in sexual intercourse from which they might otherwise have remained free. This is one of the prevalent reasons today, among many men and women, and is based upon a too active imagination, plus a powerful physical, or sex nature, and a prurient curiosity. This I say with advisement. This category accounts for many of our sodomites and lesbians. 3. A few rare, very rare, cases of hermaphroditism. These people, combining in themselves both aspects of the sex life, are faced with a very real problem. It is a problem which is greatly increased by human ignorance, human refusal to face facts, wrong early training and teaching, and a widespread misunderstanding. These cases are to be found in small numbers everywhere, even though their numbers, in relation to the world population, is still negligible.